Welcome back to the Adobe live stream here live from Adobe Max in San Diego.
One more time.
One more time.
Yeah.
Welcome here to the Adobe Max stream on adobelive.com, and I'm here for the next hour with Bria Lear, and we're going to be learning everything about setting up Photoshop and Photoshop for beginners, and
Photoshop
a little
for marketing.
intro. Photoshop for marketing. Great. All right,
Yeah.
Lear, why don't you tell us a little bit about you?
All right.
Yeah.
Well, my background is actually in fashion design.
Okay.
And what lots of people don't know about me, as I've done graphic design and website design, ran my own digital magazine, is I don't really have much formal training in Photoshop.
Okay.
So I like to tell people anyone can learn Photoshop. It doesn't need to be intimidating. And I just want to give people the confidence to create
I think
in Photoshop.
that's one of the top things for people who begin with Photoshop. It's like, whoa, what are all these buttons?
Yeah.
What are all these menu items? And crazy, right?
Yeah.
So you're actually trying to make that simple for people who start with Photoshop.
Make it a little less intimidating.
Awesome. So where are you from?
I'm from Vancouver, Canada.
Vancouver, Canada.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. So in the chat, where are you guys from? Hey, yes, Rufus is here, and Bria is here. Bonjour à tous. No French, only English, right? Although.
Un petit peu de français.
Un petit peu de français. Okay, Bria, why don't we start and get this thing going?
Sure.
What's happening?
Still don't get it.
We still don't getting a signal. All right.
Plugged.
Let's see. All right. I'm gonna open the. Oh, I need to go. Mirror. Okay.
Are you plugged in?
No, I'm not plugged in. Do I need to?
Tech issues.
Okay, no.
Okay. This is mine. All right.
Wow, we've got people from everywhere.
Yeah. Into hers. Okay. Do you want to? Shall we do that? Okay. These are the joys of live broadcast.
Yes.
Yeah, because
I
you
see all
never
kinds
know
of
what can
people
happen.
Watching online.
Yeah.
My sister.
Oh, really? Okay. The whole family.
I've got the family.
The
Got a
family
big
from
family,
Vancouver.
So they're all there.
All right. Oh, Fresno, St. Louis, Brazil.
Happy to see you, Max.
Yeah. United Arab Emirates.
Okay.
Wow.
Okay. Are we good now?
And now? Now? It's weird because it says that. What can we try?
Vegas,
Hi.
Dominican Republic, Morocco.
Throw some assets
We have a
onto the
truly
USB.
global.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, still not. Yeah, but
Okay. We're gonna get this working. Yeah.
you want to, you have some files?
I can put it on a USB.
Yeah, let's do that. You can work
Yeah,
on
if that's
On my
easier.
computer?
On mine?
All right.
We'll see. We'll see what happens.
Okay, let's
Do you want to maybe check if we have another cable like this? Is this yours?
Yeah,
Okay.
I tried the two
Okay.
guys.
Are we going to be using only Photoshop?
Yes, only
Okay.
Photoshop today.
Oh, new splash screen. Okay. All right. All right. So let's see. Oh, you're copying over the files. Okay. We're going to get started in just a second here. Yes. Okay. Yeah. Don't say. All right.
Let's see. Let's see if we have room.
Sorry, shouldn't have
That's
done
okay.
that while you were doing something else. I crash everything. Let's see. All right.
We might have to pick and choose.
Okay, we're copying over the files.
Tech issues.
The island of Hawaii. Oh, and somebody's from Westeros.
Whoa.
Yeah,
Wow.
that's pretty
I'm gonna need to catch up on my Game of Thrones.
Yeah. Guadalajara.
Hawaii,
Hungary.
one of my
Yeah.
favorite vacation places.
Really? Which island do you prefer? Or-
Well, I've only been to the Big Island, so I need
Okay.
to check out the rest.
Yeah.
But
I only went to Kauai.
I haven't been there yet. The Big Island was great, seeing volcanoes. I should
Alright.
just kill this and do a few.
Okay.
Okay, let's just try this again.
Will we be doing a giveaway? Yeah, I think we're doing giveaways. Michael is doing those. So we have a thing called Nightbot, and Nightbot will randomly select people out of the chat. So stay with us. And plus, the Nightbot is like a little bot that actually, picks people out of the chat. Nightbot has a preference for people who have subscribed to the Creative Cloud YouTube channel. So there's a button down here somewhere where you can subscribe to the Creative Cloud YouTube channel. So please do that for more chances to win. And how's it going?
Just
Almost there?
a couple things, almost there.
All right. And oh, somebody's from San Diego. We're in San Diego. You can just walk over to the convention center.
I'm loving San Diego.
Yeah, right?
Already, by the way.
I love it.
It's amazing.
I came from cold Europe. Yeah, like Norway, for example. It's
See, I have family in Norway. It is cold there.
I come from Italy, so I live in Italy.
That's a little warmer.
Yeah, a little warm.
Okay. I've got some stuff.
Everybody loves to
try.
win. That's right. Thank you for being so patient in the chat. We're copying over the
We're
files.
almost there.
We've had some technical difficulties to get Bria's computer on screen.
This might mean
But
I need a new laptop.
There you go.
All right. I think we're good.
All right. So let's get that stick over here, and I'm going to give you control to my laptop. All right.
Just doing it.
Okay. Let's see. And let's copy these files over.
Right.
Should be fast. Let's create a new folder here. Okay, and let's copy your. Is it no name? Is that the?
Yeah,
No.
no
Okay,
name.
no name. Why do I not see any files? Okay. Oh, here we go.
There we go.
All of it?
Yeah.
All files. Oh, even the folders and everything.
Yeah.
Okay. Even the flight itinerary and everything.
Demos and. Oh, no, that. Oh, that is not what's on there. Can you?
Is it maybe in demos? No.
That's not what's supposed to be on there.
Okay, student
Not what I
assets
copied.
either. Okay. You might want to get your computer out again. We'll figure it
get
out.
there.
We'll figure it out. This is all live.
This is real life issues.
Real life issues. Yeah.
Let's.
And there's no time to safely eject a USB stick. So I'm just gonna take
Maybe
it out.
that's what happens.
Yes.
Let's try this again.
Let's try it again. Or maybe, just check if it's copied it in there. No name. Yeah, you see? Where did you copy them into?
Those ones are the ones I canceled.
Okay. Hey, Alexandre Becquet. Welcome.
What would you recommend for an 8th grader who is starting out for graphic design and digital arts?
Yeah.
Learn Photoshop.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Learn Photoshop. Photoshop is like the beginning of everything. That's where you grasp the first concepts of layering
Yeah.
and transparencies.
That was
and,
my first program,
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah. And then things like InDesign and Illustrator come more naturally, I think.
Yes, they do.
Don't worry, we'll get there. Breathe in, breathe out. It's FAT32. Yeah, is it FAT32 your disk? No? Let me see if I can give you my little Mac stick here. This is so small. This is my little small stick here. Are you actually copying them
Oh.
over? Okay.
Just delete that.
Whoa. Let's see the new document window in Photoshop while we're talking here, because this changed this morning. So if you don't see a window like that when you open Photoshop, well, just go here to the Creative Cloud icon and update everything. All right. So this morning I updated Photoshop and Illustrator and InDesign. I'm gonna wait for these ones. I don't need them today. But there's a whole bunch of new stuff happening here. The recent files, the saved files. I can open photos, a new document for print, for art and illustration, web, mobile, film and video. And if I go here to my recent formats here, my recent items, all my custom formats that I've created for Photoshop. If I close this for a second, I'm just going to go here into my CC files for a second. You'll also notice that there's a whole bunch of new features in the new document window that let you search on Adobe Stock, for example, for great stock imagery that you can start with. There's also ways to actually jump right into the recent files, create a new document, open a document. It's all there inside of the new document experience. So let's see if we can, these files have now copied over. Otherwise, no, don't put it away yet.
Just in case.
Just in case. Let's open this no name again. Oh, there we go. Is this it?
Yes.
Okay, cool.
Perfect.
Awesome. So I'm gonna put this in this new folder that I've just created. Ba-da-bam. Okay. It's a bit faster than yours. You should get a new computer. Okay,
I think
done.
it's due.
We're done. And
That was 2009.
And I'm gonna call it Bria. And Bria, it's all yours. Okay, Photoshop is open. The only thing that you may find is that it's an Italian keyboard, so maybe there's some things like the tilde that are missing, but
All right.
I don't know if you want to use that.
Okay.
What are you? You need the mouse?
That's okay. I'll use it without.
Let's do it. All right.
All right. So.
Somebody's
let's
using Adobe Comp right now. What are you comping? What a creative culprit. Yeah, pretty cool
All
new
right.
updates. Bria, it's all yours.
Here
you
we
go
are
ahead. All right.
in Photoshop.
Woo.
Yay,
Okay.
we're ready to go. Okay, so first, when you go into the Photoshop, when you open Photoshop for the first time, it looks really dark, and I find it's kind of intimidating, especially for new users. So I always show them how to change the interface color so it's a little bit less scary. So we'll go into the Photoshop preferences here, and then into interface. And I like to choose the color theme medium gray. So this is really great just for being a little bit more friendly. It also shows up a lot better on like projector screens and gives you a really true sense of your colors when you're working.
Is there a way I can reset everything very quickly once you're done?
Yes,
Okay.
there is. The other thing I like to do is go into General and uncheck Resize Image During Place. This will just be helpful in a few of our exercises. And then under Workspace, uncheck Open Documents as tabs. So then I'll click OK. But if you find that you've changed something and you don't like it, you can always go to Restore Default Workspaces or General Reset Preferences on Quit.
Okay.
So I'll click OK.
So this is what I'll be doing once we're done. Okay.
Yeah. So now we'll open our new file. So Command O to open, or just
It's on the desktop.
open desktop.
And Adobe Max San Diego. And there should be your.
There we
Bria.
go.
Okay.
Awesome. All right, so let's just open our document and talk about layers. So if you get this new library from Document Box pop up, I'm just going to click Don't Show Again and cancel. I won't do it here,
Okay.
but just cancel for now. We'll talk about libraries in a second. So when you're in Photoshop, the first thing I like to tell newbies is go to the Move tool. This is like your home base in Photoshop. It's a safety zone. You can always come back here if you get stuck in another tool, which can happen often. So the shortcut for that is V, and now you can see my Move tool is selected. I always like to make sure that Auto Select is turned on up here at the top, and that Layer is also selected, and that just allows me to click and drag on my screen and move my layers around. So now you might be wondering, okay, what are layers? Where are they? The layers panel is here in the bottom right, and I like to call that the magical land of layers because that's really where all the magic happens in Photoshop. So with layers,
the chat is discussing, light or dark interface, and most people prefer dark.
all right,
So,
well,
yeah.
personal preference.
Yes.
See, and that's one thing to note in Photoshop is there's so many ways to do or to get to the same end result that it really is about personal preference and what workflow works best for you. So in layers, it's really easy to rearrange the order of your layers. I like to think of the layers panel as a cross section of your canvas, which is the aerial view. So I just click and drag in my layers panel to rearrange. I can also add transparency like this purple rectangle by clicking on the slider or just hovering, clicking and dragging, and that changes my transparency. And then I've got options for blending modes, which also affect transparency and how the layer interacts with what's underneath it. So I'm on normal right now for this palm leaf picture. If I click something like lighten, you'll see it sort of disappears on the white background, but gives me some cool effects on my image. I can delete layers really quickly, or just Command Z or Control Z to go back. Alt Command Z will take you back multiple steps, which is important when you're designing.
So let me ask you the chat, who is beginning with Photoshop here? Because I know there's many people there as well that that maybe are beginning with Photoshop, who have just gotten it and just want to start. Because many people say this is basic, yes, but this is important for people who are starting.
Yeah, exactly. So let's move on to something I really love about Photoshop, which is the libraries panel. So I'm going to open another new file, and this is a mood board I created for a brand, a travel and lifestyle magazine. Now, I've created my colors, my headings, subheadings, all basically the brand styles, and I'd like to save those so I can use them for future use. So this is where libraries comes in handy. Libraries basically saves all of your styles, colors, features, graphics, so that you can drop them into any other design or any other program. So with that, I just want to add some styles to the library. So to create a new library, just create new library, and we'll type this one, just type my name, create, and then literally all I have to do is select an item, and I'll have a little add button down here. Looks like we're not syncing.
It should be syncing.
There's the new library from document. We'll try that one. Character styles and colors. There, create new library. Now all of my colors from this document and all of my text styles will be added in here. So from there, I can create any new document and quickly drop and drag my text and my colors in there. So why don't we create something new. Let's go.
Have you seen this new document window yet?
This is the first time I'm seeing this.
Right? Like we're
so
discovering
this is
it together. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a lot more visual, which is great. And I see there's a lot of options for print and web and mobile, which makes it so much faster. So if I was choosing something for web, I could quickly create a web header document. Awesome, so I can create any design on here, and let's say I am typing, what is it? Welcome to Adobe Max, and I want to style this in the way of my brand. One click, and it's now in my brand colors. And I can scale that as is. Now, I don't have all the fonts I was working with.
Yeah, but
so
did you use Typekit fonts?
I use Typekit fonts every so often.
Okay.
Sometimes I download my own fonts just to...
Well, had you used Typekit fonts, they would
this
have
wouldn't have
opened
been a
automatically.
problem.
Yeah.
Exactly, exactly. Some of my fonts weren't Typekit fonts, so
Okay.
Typekit does make it a lot easier when you are transitioning from
One computer to
Computer
the other,
to
just like
another.
we did today.
exactly. So with that, I can add any sort of background using solid color and just choose a brand color from here. And now that's really quick to update my font. Oh, where? Here we go.
Okay.
There.
Somebody's asking, what are smart layers?
Smart layers. Where are smart layers here?
No, you can choose to answer or not. So that's
That one, I'm not sure what they're referring
Okay.
to. So,
all right. We'll figure it out later.
how about some really quick photo editing techniques with adjustment layers? So, I'm just going to open a few more pictures. All right, let's go. We'll open this one. We'll just open all of them here.
Okay.
All right, so I've got a bunch of pictures to play with now. I find a lot of like total beginners on Photoshop will go to image adjustments to start applying their photo adjustments. However, that's not really a editable way of working, and it does damage the original file, meaning that you can't go back over and over. So, and you can't go back and make more edits. So where you want to go for all of those adjustments is into the new fill and adjustment layers icon at the bottom of layers. And that looks like a little half-eaten pie, I think, or a half moon. So this photo I've got up here first looks really dark. It's kind of underexposed. That background was actually white when I took it. It's an iPhone photo. I want to use levels to brighten that up. So using levels, what we see here is called a histogram. Looks like a mountain range. It's basically just showing you the output level of blacks, whites, midtones in your photo. To brighten this photo really quickly, all I need to do is click on my white slider here and drag it to the base of the mountain range, and voila, I have lightened my image. So this tool can also be used to add more contrast if you need to increase the darks. Sometimes you might want to even edit the midtones depending on what look you're going for or what's happening in the image as you brighten it or darken it. So that one is really quick, fast
And
little
you did
edit.
that non-destructively.
Yeah, non-destructively, meaning I can close this and open it later and do more edits and come back and go in and edit my levels again.
And you can even like turn off the layer and see the original image.
Exactly.
So this
I
is
should have
very
shown that.
important for beginners to understand
The
that
before and after.
you know, leave no pixel behind. Okay, like really, the non-destructive workflows is really the key here. So.
Yeah.
So use adjustment layers. Use maybe you're going to be talking about smart objects maybe as well. Like
The worst. Smart objects are great. Really, the worst thing I think is when you create a design, you send it to somebody for approval, like a client, and they're like, "Well, actually, could you just change that thing?"
Yeah.
And you didn't create the document in a way that's editable, and you can go back and change, and you end up redesigning the entire thing. So let's just close that one. Another of my favorite Photoshop edits is changing the temperature of an image. So if I look at this one, like this is a great
temperature?
image. So the temperature is basically how warm or cool the image is, in my opinion. So if I look at this image, it's quite warm. There's a lot of like yellows, greeny yellows, oranges, that kind of tone. And changing the temperature is really an aesthetic preference, I think. However, if you take a photo in indoor lighting and you get that yellowy orangey tinge from the lights, this edit will be really helpful and in kind of taking that down a notch. So for this one, I'd like to make it a little bit more cool toned. That's just my personal preference. So under the adjustment layers, I can go into color balance, and I've got all of these sliders here that I can choose which color I would rather lean towards than the other. I also have the drop down that shows me which, whether I'm affecting the shadows, the midtones, or the highlights. So I'm gonna go through probably all of this one, and I'm gonna drag this over to blue. I usually start with the yellow to blue slider. I find that makes the most realistic difference. You can always go too far and then it gets a little over edited, so we'll just take that one back. Cyan to red, I play with that a bit. Magenta to green is not something I touch too often, but you can create that more of a pinky purpley or a greeny tone. So we'll just set that back to 0. From there, I might go into my shadows, take them down a little bit. I'm not gonna worry about cyan on this one. And the highlights, maybe a little bit to balance those out. So this is very, very much blue tone versus the one before, which was quite warm. You almost don't notice the difference when you're first working on it, how much it actually changes from before to after. What I really love about using adjustment layers is that you can actually copy them to another image, so I can make an edit super quickly. So if I've worked on something and this is like the style I'm going for in this group of photos, I can then copy that over really quickly. So having this one visible, I'm gonna open this image. Now this image was much more similar to the original tone. So taken, in the same photo shoot. So from there, all I need to do is click and drag on that actual layer, drag that all the way over here to my second image, and just release. And I've now copied it over, and I can see the before and after.
Yeah.
So really, really fast to edit images, especially if you're working with a small group that needs constant adjustment. I can always go into this one again and adjust from there if I want to change some of those edits. So that's one that I use on almost every single photo. If you're using an iPhone or if you're using sometimes like the Photoshop app, you may find this under temperature, or it usually just looks like a little a temperature scale.
Oh, okay.
So.
Do you ever use the camera raw filter to do this?
I don't. I use Lightroom when I'm using raw.
No. But like the filter.
No, I don't.
Yeah, let's try it just for a second.
Sure.
Like just reopen the image that we just closed.
Where did we go? Here we go. This one. All right.
Okay, this is the original one. Okay.
I can make it the original.
Okay. Let's select the background layer.
Yeah. Select all. Oh, here we go. Yeah.
And go to filter.
Filter.
And let's go to camera raw filter. And there you have access to all of the camera raw things. For example, the temperature and the tint and all of these things, exposure, contrast. And when you use that filter, it also transforms, the layer into a smart object. And again, it's it's non-destructive.
Yeah.
And
so you have a lot. Yeah, you've got a ton of editing techniques in here that you can just quickly access as well. That's great. Yeah. Yeah, this one, this was a stock photo, so it was already quite well edited, but I can imagine if you're using your own camera and you're not a photographer.
Is in it.
Yeah, exactly. Sneaky.
Yeah.
Right. All right. So the other one I really love is black and white, and being able to adjust the color channels within the black and white filter. Going to the adjustment layers again, black and white. Now, that might be my preference, that it looks exactly how it is, but often it doesn't.
Because the big error people make, and I'm going to just Command Z out of that, usually they go here and they go image, mode, grayscale, okay?
Yeah.
That's what they do. I've seen it happen a gazillion times. And because it
Can't go
says
back
here,
from
like,
that.
oh, let's go to grayscale, and it's a black and white image. So basically, you're really missing out on all of the cool features of the filter you've just mentioned, to of the adjustment layer that that allows you much more control, and it is
Permanent.
non-destructive.
Non-destructive, yeah, exactly. Yeah, you definitely can't come back from that grayscale
No.
thing very easily. So yeah, doing the black and white adjustment layer from here, then we have all of our color channels, which you can then go in and edit. So if I look at my original image, I'm seeing, I probably have a lot of reds in here. If I'm just looking at my color channels, a lot of reds, yellows and greens in here. So I know if I go and edit these sliders, it will make a bigger difference. So just my reds, adding some contrast in here, that adds a lot. The yellows, huge difference. The greens, oh, my yellows just dragged back here. Greens as well. Now it has a lot more contrast than what I had before. If I just show that original black and white filter
Yeah.
instead of this one.
Much more control over contrast and and how the colors. I mean, basically it comes back to the good old days of developing film and developing, like on paper and stuff. This is all things you would control, like while lighting the paper and things like. It was very laborious, and so I think the result is great using the adjustment layer for that.
Yeah, it definitely gives you a lot more option and control over your final image. So that's the one that I like. Now, for anyone who does a lot of social media or working with brands and working with stock photos, you don't always have control over what colors the photos come in. Maybe the subject matter is great or the composition is beautiful, but you want it to look more on brand. So, for example, if I have a brand that's kind of very like pink and peachy and girly and more warm, but I love this photo, how can I use this photo in a way that is colored on brand, especially for social media, or if I need to add text over top. My favorite way to do that is using solid color overlays and then applying a blending mode. So for this one, pick something, let's see, maybe in the peachy pink realm. Something like that. And then going in and changing my blending modes. So I'll try something like lighten, which is really intense, but I can drop down the opacity of that layer. And now I have something that maybe is more on brand for those pink colors that I can also add text onto without distracting from my message. So another option is maybe overlay, which gives a more subtle effect, but when you're looking at the before, which was quite dark and definitely more of a cool tone, and then looking at this, it's just brightened it up and given it a little bit more of my brand colors. So that's really helpful when you're trying to create that cohesive brand look online. Those are my favorite photo editing techniques. Is there anything?
The chat room is chatting about like how they do things, and
Great.
and that's the thing. There's so many ways to do the same thing in Photoshop, which in the end it all depends on choosing the one that that you like best, that works best for you. So yes, everybody will have different techniques.
Oh, totally.
Like I would use the camera raw filter. You would go into layer, the adjustment layer. So there's so many ways to do similar, identical things, and this is probably coming from the long history of Adobe, like over 25 years of Photoshop now. That we added a lot of features that that we're not supposed to replace older features, but that we're supposed to make older workflows more faster, more efficient. But of course, we couldn't just remove the old workflow, okay?
Yeah.
Because that would have like alienated a whole group of users of Photoshop. So this is why Photoshop is becoming more and more complex, and I really like the way that you approach it, like very simple, like these little tips and tricks for beginners. And I know there's beginners because I asked, and people said, no, I'm a beginner. Yeah, I want to know. Yeah, 25 years of photo. I think we celebrated 25 years of Photoshop last year.
Yeah, I remember that post. I shared it on my Facebook page.
Okay, yeah.
It's been around for a long time.
A long time, yeah. Yeah. Quarter of a century.
Yeah.
Yes,
oh my gosh,
people.
so many things.
So how many of you in the chat were not born 25 years ago? Okay. Who is younger than Photoshop? Don't say your age, because that goes against the rules of online chats here and in YouTube and online. But just say if you're older or younger than Photoshop.
Yeah. All right.
And let's see if we're gonna do a giveaway or not. Let me see if I can see Michael.
Let me just exit that one. So another thing I love is the clipping mask.
Okay.
And I find for people who are not Photoshop users or just starting out, it's impossible to find information about the clipping mask unless you know what it's called. And people try to do cutting out shapes and turning things, like rasterizing, all of these things when you don't have to. So I might just do a demo on that.
Yeah.
Let's see if I've got anything in here if I want to start a new one. Might have to change this font. Let's see.
Try to resolve. No? Is there a... Well, no. It's not Myriad. Okay.
All right. We'll make a new font here.
Okay.
Okay. Let's see.
Older, younger, older, younger, older, younger. It's like half and half. Yeah. Isn't it cool to be able to say, I'm younger than Photoshop? Or, like in my case, I was there when Photoshop was born, I used Photoshop version 1.
All right, so I've got this little text image here, and I'm just going to make it smaller so it fits. We don't really want that up on the screen for too long. Oh, keep going. And still more. There we go.
The O was missing, of course.
We're missing the O. You guys thought I did that on purpose, didn't you? All right, so you see a lot online where there's a texture or an image inside text or inside a shape, and we're wondering, okay, how do they do that? Like, how do you get that gold foil inside the text, or how do you get a texture in there? And really, it comes down to this very simple technique called the clipping mask, where you can take any image or really anything and almost drop it inside the text. It's kind of like creating those shapes, those really fun shaped ice cube trays where you're like pouring water into this shape.
Okay.
That's how I look at it. All right, so I'm gonna open now I could just go Command O for that. That would be faster. Open this sunset picture.
Edwin McAdams said, I'm growing up with Photoshop. That's the best thing to say regardless of age. Yeah, we grow up with Photoshop.
Exactly.
Do you grow up with Photoshop?
Half? Maybe half.
Okay.
Half grew up with Photoshop. All right, so I got this image. I want to just drag it into here, and I'm going to put it inside my text. So dragging it over, just using the move tool. And the most important thing with this technique is that your image layer is directly above the layer you want to drop it into. If it's not going to work. So I can see layer 1 right above hello. Just make sure it's placed in there. And then I'm going to hold down my Option key. And when I hover my mouse on this line, it changes to this little square with a downturned arrow. That means I'm in the right spot. From there, click once, and it's now dropped my image inside my text. Now this doesn't necessarily look great. I'll just hide that stroke and update my text a little bit. Let's see. will turn this into bold. I find it looks best with bold fonts when you're doing an image. Otherwise, you don't really see a whole lot of the image. And then I'm going to use this great little shortcut to add letter spacing. My favorite designer trick for typography is adding space between the letters. Makes any font look great. So you can hold down Alt or Option and use your right or left arrow keys to add or reduce space. And this works the same with line spacing. You're only using your up or down keys.
Give a bit more air between the characters.
Just lets them breathe a little bit. And from there, let's see, I can reposition my image however I like, scale it. I mean, this image that I'm starting with, there wasn't a whole lot there for us to see. But if you're using something like, say, a picture of sand, you'll get a lot of that texture coming through. Another great thing with this is that I can then apply a blending mode to my image and see whatever color is underneath. So I don't know what's going to happen here. Multiply. I've now created the texture, and let's just a little bigger.
This is not really kerning, guys. I mean, some people are saying it's kerning. No, this is really letter spacing. Kerning.
I call it letter spacing because
because
what you're doing.
Let's see if we look in the
character.
Yeah, this is a bit like let me see.
Here T and then.
Okay, here in my little panel here.
There we go.
You see that? Okay, there's two different things here. There's the let me see. Is there a little pop-up that comes? Okay, that's a tracking. Okay.
So that's what I was changing.
Yeah, you're just changing the tracking. And basically kerning is when you only do it between specific letters, okay? So for example, some fonts, are designed in such a way, maybe that the space between the O and the L is a bit, off. So you would put your cursor in here, and by using the kerning tool here, you would actually say, okay, maybe I need a little bit more kerning here, like 10. Okay, so you see, like you can move like letters. The other thing here, on the other hand, the tracking or the letter spacing is like you can select a whole thing. Yeah. So it depends on the level of preciseness that you want to work on your type with.
Now I just love this one because I used to make a text box and then try to justify the whole word or add like one space between each letter. It doesn't work that well. So this is a lot faster. I think what's great, we don't want to do that. What's great about the clipping mask, getting back to the clipping mask, is that I can always rewrite my text. So I could save this as a Photoshop file. If this is something I want to, say, post to social media over and over, save this as a Photoshop file. I can come back and write something new in here and save my edit again. So I can always change the color of my text as well, and I'll get a different effect. So maybe if I take something from in here, maybe not quite so dark. Let's try this green. Try the green over here. And now the effect on my text will be completely different. I can always change opacity on any of these layers to reduce the effect. And then go in and say update. Let's actually use one of my colors, and then again, maybe change that text color as well.
Yeah, it's really
which
like
doesn't
a lot
really
of
do anything.
Freedom.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah.
So now that would be on brand with the brand styles that I had created.
All right.
And the clipping mask works as well for shapes. So if I were to do, I like to use this for mood boards. So if I just see, new document. Just go back to that one I had before here.
That's okay, 1024, okay.
Just so we've got something. If I want to create a mood board with a few different images, I can, I don't want a stroke here. We'll just make that fill. And I'll copy that one.
Yes, all the live streams we're doing here live from Adobe Max on the adobelive.com webpage will actually be available right after they're ending. So Bria, we're going to be ending in about 10 minutes.
Perfect.
Right after that, it'll be available on the Creative Cloud YouTube channel. So that's where you can find everything. All the reruns, including the keynote of day one here at Adobe Max live from San Diego. Yeah, did you see the keynote?
I did. It
Were
was
you sitting in there?
amazing, yeah. So
How did it
great.
feel like with 10,000 people around you?
Lots of energy. There was a lot of great stuff happening there. So let's just open those. All right. So what I was just doing was drawing a couple shapes. Let's just say I'm creating a mood board for my next creative project. And that's something that I do with any project is create a mood board with images and inspiration images to just kind of set the tone of what my project is going to be all about. And that's what I'd showed
Sorry.
before. That's okay.
Sorry, okay.
It's a popular guy over here. All right, so I can then, rather than trying to cut my images down to size or shapes, or just crop certain parts of the image, I'll just drop them into my mood board template. So I might have made this already and have something I use every time, especially for client work. This is awesome. And then I'm really just dragging my files in. Let's see, we'll put this one in the middle. Again, I have to make sure that my layer is over top of the right layer. Now, before I held down Option and just hovered my mouse, that's the shortcut. If you want to do it the other way, or if you can't remember the shortcut, it's just a right click and create clipping mask. So now that's dropped my image right in there into that shape. And this doesn't only work with rectangles, it works with any shape you can imagine, any vector object that you pull in from Illustrator. It could be a brand logo that you want to apply, maybe like silver to or something like that. And I've now got my image in there and can repeat that for other images as well.
You're talking about templates. Did you see that from today in Photoshop and Illustrator you can actually access templates from Adobe Stock?
So cool.
Yeah, right?
That was amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's going
Like
to
let's show the chat a second. Like let's create a new document, Command N, and let's see if I can find them from here.
I'm excited to play with that feature when I go
Yeah.
home.
So if I don't know, let's say busyness template. Let's see. Oh, full of spelling mistakes. Let's see. Okay, here we go. And now I can go into templates, and these are all templates that I can use from Adobe Stock. So maybe there's even mood boards or things like that.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
It's such a quick way to start designing.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people get overwhelmed with that blank page.
And many of these are free actually here on Adobe Stock.
Yeah.
And of course there might be, I don't know if there's paid content already. But of course, this is also a way for people, to start monetizing their templates and things like that. So that's going to be pretty cool when all that comes together in Adobe Stock.
Yeah.
Now, as of today, you can browse templates and download those to Illustrator and Photoshop. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I think that's such an amazing new tool.
Oh, can I close this?
Yes.
Yeah. Boom.
Yeah. So that's what I was going to show about clipping masks.
Okay.
Just drop it into any shape, any text, any vector graphic. It's a really great way to work as it's so editable. I can always go back in and undo what I've done rather than cutting and getting rid of pixels and
Yeah.
trying to do a selection. I know some people use masks for that as well.
Yeah.
But
So many people are saying, why don't you do that in InDesign? InDesign is the application to do that. Again, it all depends on what you feel more comfortable
Yeah.
with. I would do it in InDesign because I'm an InDesign guy. That's where I come from. I come from the layout business. You come more from the Photoshop side, so
Yeah.
you feel more comfortable doing it in Photoshop. Somebody else might say, hey, I feel more comfortable doing it in Illustrator. So it just
Yeah.
really it doesn't really matter.
I mean, I know people that edit their photos in Illustrator and make their social media images in Illustrator.
Well, there you go.
Because that's what they're comfortable with.
Yeah.
That wouldn't be my choice, but
Yeah,
again, it's like there's so many different ways.
It makes me cringe inside, but
Yeah.
But it's okay. I was just saying, do
Yeah.
whatever you feel more comfortable with.
Yeah,
In the
definitely.
past, it was much more difficult to work. Like you had to choose your applications wisely because output was a very important thing.
Yeah.
So, like Photoshop would rasterize your text, for example, or your vector objects. Photoshop does not do that anymore. If you export a PDF out of Photoshop, or if you print out a Photoshop file, text and vector graphics and all of these things remain vectors. So, all of this legacy thinking of, oh, don't do text in Photoshop.
Yeah.
It's really old school, and yes, because vectors.
And I think for people just getting into
Yeah.
maybe the Adobe suite of products, they're not necessarily comfortable learning all of those programs at once. It can be really intimidating.
Yeah.
I work with a lot of beginners who have never used Photoshop before, aren't really that comfortable on a computer. So for them to have to learn Illustrator and InDesign
Yeah.
to do all these
That's it.
things, it would take them hours and hours and hours.
Yeah.
So there's definitely no right or wrong way to
Yeah.
approach
Not
your
anymore, I don't think.
designs.
Well, of course, if you're starting, but even again, like, of course, if you're working on a magazine with page numbers and
Yeah.
things like that, that would be,
Oh, InDesign, hands down.
there you go.
Multiple page documents anyway.
Multiple screens, it would be Photoshop. Multiple versions of a logo, maybe it's Illustrator, so it's all a matter. Hey,
Yeah.
we have actually very little time left. What's your last tip that you want to share with our community here on adobelive.com?
My last tip. Now, maybe let's do an action.
Okay.
I feel like a lot of people coming into Photoshop don't even know that the actions exist.
Do we have time to do an action in 3 minutes?
We can do a pretty quick action.
All right.
All right, so resizing a photo.
Okay.
So let's say, okay, I'm opening my photo.
And
I
Bree
opened a
is
new
just doing an
document.
action that's going to resize all the photos on my computer
I'm gonna take over.
to a 30 pixel by 30
right.
pixel image.
Let's open one of these photo editing ones because I know they are probably high res. Let's see. Go to color. Open.
Okay.
Okay, now this is a stock photo. If I want to create an action, so basically for those people watching who don't know what an action is, it's a pre-recorded sequence of steps that you can then play on other files. So I love this for quick little things that I do that I don't really want to be spending my time on, such as resizing images, especially if you are taking like lots of photos and then needing to put them into a blog. Bloggers, for example, tons of photos to upload. It's a pain. So what I'll do is find my actions window. We'll go to Window, Actions, and I can see set of actions here. So sometimes I'll make a new folder. In this case, let's just create a new action. So here, we'll type it resizing, and I'm going to include the pixel width as well. So let's just say my blog is 700 pixels wide. That just lets me know if I create multiple widths, which ones I'm using. So then I hit record. So from now on, everything that I do in Photoshop, all the steps I take will be recorded until I hit stop. So if I were to resize this, I'll go to image size, and I can see it's fairly large. So I'm gonna resize this to 700. And now you might be able to shed some light, but I've heard there's a lot of debate with the resolution size of images on the web, and that it really doesn't matter what resolution it is as long as it is the right pixel width. So maybe you have something to add to that conversation.
Well, that depends on, 72 for like computer screens.
Yeah.
I would do 140, 150 for, the Retina displays. So it really depends.
Yeah.
Of course, the higher the resolution is, it makes the image heavier.
Yeah,
so,
exactly.
That's,
you got to think
all
about where
optimization.
your person
And
is.
Brie, we have 20 seconds.
All right.
We're gonna.
We're
We're just
done.
recording the
We click
action.
OK, we click stop.
And boom, and you can play that on
Then we
100
go in here and
files.
click play.
Yeah, play it on that. One last word to
right.
our audience here.
Thanks so much for tuning in to this Photoshop tutorial, and I hope that every beginner out here now feels like they're a little bit more prepared to enter Photoshop, and that those of you who are more experienced will teach the rest.
Yes, and stay tuned. We're going to be right back in 5 minutes with another great guest here. What? Jazza from Australia will be here with us for the next hour. So stay tuned on adobelive.com. See you soon. Bye. Bye.
Bye.